Good.
Good. It's good to go.
Yep. It didn't yell at me for anything yet. So
Okay. You didn't have to click on anything. Accept it.
it just popped up and said recording. Okay. Or
Okay.
leave meeting.
We're live. We're live. Here we go. All right, cool. Well, Levi, I appreciate it, brother. You've been a cool part of Linchpin for a while. I enjoy watching your stories and posts in the private Facebook group, and I'm finally circling back to doing these interviews. So thanks for making some time.
Thanks for having me. It's fantastic.
Of course, you're a very fashionable individual. Love the shirt.
I figured I was digging through and I'm like, do I want to wear the 5K run shirt? And I'm like, no, I don't support 5K runs. Running is stupid. Threw that
Oh,
one back in the drawer.
we've got that darn 5K run coming up again this month, actually. I got to start like promoting it soon. It's going to be of all the things, I think we're just going to like repeat two challenges each year, and both of them involve running.
Let me do this for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think you get a lot of support with just the lift heavy portion. So, you've got a lot of stuff I want to chat with you about, particularly just all the posts about you working out with your dad and your father-in-law. Like it's just super cool stuff. But give us a little bit of your backstory. You said in your initial email to me that you've been at this for a while. You started CrossFit, or I should say your wife got you into CrossFit in like 2014 or 15.
Yeah, the whole thing's her fault.
Perfect, perfect.
We were having we were probably just having dinners or lunch somewhere and the games were on TV wherever we were at. And just kind of out of the blue. And when we first started dating, we were, worked out in a regular local gym or whatever. Um, and she said, I want to do that. And
Okay.
I kind of turned and gave it a look and I'm thinking, really? We're looking at games athletes. You want to do that? And I was like, okay, if we can find a place to go. And she was pretty serious about it. She, called around to 3 or 4 gyms and she talked to a couple coaches and got a really good vibe from one of the coaches here that was in a town, maybe 20 minutes from home. And I told her, look, I'll go with you and I'll do like the on ramp thing for the first week, just so you have somebody there with you. And then I'm gone. I'm not
Right.
doing that.
There
I,
you go.
I played football and ran track in high school. I knew what lifting was. I loved lifting, but I'm like, I also know that it's going to be a beating and I don't have any interest in that. Just
Hmm.
lazy. And we went. The coach was fantastic. Loved the guy. Very charismatic. Great personality. Loved hanging out in his gym. And went through the on ramp phase with her and just stuck with it. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. This is fantastic.
That's really cool. Out of curiosity, what was your event in track?
Pole vault
Oh, no kidding.
to avoid running.
Man, I tell you that there's not a lot of, well, some schools have track programs, but not every track program has like pole vault. That's pretty
I'm
unique. Cool.
very mediocre pole vaulter.
What was
Very,
what's
very
what's like
mediocre.
a low, medium, and high vault? I have no concept.
Well, I never got over 10 feet, which I think is pretty bad.
Okay.
Uh, the guys on my team, the best couple guys were up over 14 feet
Oh, wow.
and super impressive. I
Did you ever have a
never even
pole vault
sniffed
go
it.
wrong and you had to like ditch or bail?
I never had. I've seen guys snap poles
Oh
and
my
poles that
goodness.
weren't rated correctly for their weight.
Oh,
I personally did not have, and the guy who snapped his pole, he fractured his wrist when he went
oh
down.
my
So,
goodness.
um,
And then you played
but
football as
other than
well?
that, everybody landed safely.
And you said football also?
Yep,
And what was your position in football?
defensive back, so safety and corner
Okay. Just whacking people.
as much as I could. Coaches, and we're a little enough town. They wanted everybody to play both ways. Coach would often ask, "You want to go in at receiver?" Nope. I just want to hit
No.
people, coach.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you guys got involved. I guess what was your at this time, that's your fitness background. You said you and your wife were quote unquote like working out normally. Did your wife have some sort of like crazy fitness background that you think drew her to what she saw in the games?
I w- I have no idea because I was very surprised by it when she said it. So we would lift in global gym and I would bench and squat. And she would do a little bit of benching, but mostly was on, cable type machines.
Sure.
She spend most of her time doing that. So
Okay.
to suddenly see people, clanging and banging with free weights and her to go, I want to do that. I was quite surprised.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but she's an animal.
That's awesome,
She
man.
got into it, and there were guys in the gym that, when it came to a barbell, she's moving weight significantly higher than those guys. And I was very impressed and
It just
surprised. I
it
knew she
flips
was
the
strong,
switch.
but yeah,
Flips the switch.
she
So
loved it.
you
So
found a gym, you loved it. It was a great gym, good vibe, good people and all that. But sadly, you said it closed around 2018. Um,
yeah.
any sense as to why?
Um, I have ideas. I don't, none of them are confirmed.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So he
Okay.
he actually closed, moved locations, reopened
Okay.
after a couple months, and then within another 6 month time period, shut down again.
Okay. So at that point in time, you were without a home for your fitness.
Yes.
So you're out in the streets, on the streets of fitness, trying to make it happen.
Now we did gobble up his gear, but
Okay.
he was closing, and he sold off a lot of gear, and him and I had a conversation because I'm like, I feel bad because we've been here a couple of years and I hate that you're closing. And he's like, no, absolutely. I'm getting rid of the gear anyway. I'd love to give it to somebody who would use it.
Okay.
So bought it, bought 4 posts from his rig, and, like two, 400 pounds in plates,
Nice.
rower, stall mats, boxes, medicine ball, rings, and a couple barbells.
That's more than a starter kit. That's a pretty,
We were well outfitted for a very good price.
oh man, that's the stuff that some people, you don't want to see somebody go out of business, but acquiring that kind of gear at a heck of a price, people dream about that. They just
Oh yeah. And
searching
thankfully
Facebook
my wife is
articles
an
or
is
something.
an animal of fitness, and she's also financially savvy, because if it was up to me, that money would not have been available.
Right, right. And a good bargain hunter. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you get your gym outfitted. Now you find yourself working out in the gym, but you said at that phase, for whatever reason, you're just struggling with consistency. Why do you think that is?
I you would think that most people would go, oh, the community, I needed other people there. I don't.
Right.
New season, right? Our daughter was 6, 8 months old. We were
Hmm.
She might have been a little younger than that. We had taken her to the previous gym to work out in the mornings, before dropping her off at daycare. We were 5 a.m.ers, right? And she just toted along and slept in a pack and play. Um, but once the gym closed, it was just, I think that probably was it. We probably missed the community and the coaches, very inconsistent, along with the fact that we're new parents, just kind of, it
It's a
just fell
lot,
off.
man.
It just fell off.
Yeah, I think that's a really common story that will resonate, and a lot of people will be able to connect with that because, I mean, at different phases of your life, you know, little daughters are wonderful for a lot of things, but workout consistency sometimes is not one of them.
Oh, I steal your line for our second one. Our youngest, I tell everybody, she was the hand grenade.
Oh,
She just blew life up.
dude,
Ugh.
our daughter this morning, again, when given the two choices, she just, for whatever reason, she chooses violence like every time. Like we can do it
Yes.
the hard way, the easy way. She's like, let's do it the hard way. This morning I was like, my goodness, girl, why does it have to be like that? It doesn't have to be like this. It could just be so simple.
Being as your wife is a games athlete, I'm gonna bet she probably gets that from Emily.
I guess maybe so. Like I said, it will serve her well at some point in time in life that she's not a pushover, but right now, my goodness. Okay, so you were struggling with some consistency. You had a beautiful garage gym, but it's collecting dust, and so you find yourself looking for another gym and eventually found one, right?
We did, and it wasn't a super long period. It doesn't matter once you take 6 weeks off. The first week back is just gonna beat you to death.
Right.
Now I tell people, if I ever quit, I'm not coming back,
Right.
because I'm not going through that restart. I know what it's like.
Fair. Hey, that's fair.
So I have to stick with it. So we started going to another local box that was actually a little bit closer. Um, and they treated us well. We enjoyed the community there. Um, I will say there was quite a bit of difference in programming between the two. Um,
In what regard?
I think that our first box, I know, and I actually took his programming when I left. He had 3 years of programming from when he had been running. He programmed thoughtfully
Mm,
several weeks in advance. Um, and the gym that we moved to programmed week to week,
gotcha. Okay.
which in my mind, what's our long-term goal here if we're programming week to week, right?
Right. Okay.
Still enjoyed the programming and had a
Yeah.
good
But it was
time, enjoyed the
noticeable.
community, but I could tell, like, I don't know that we're moving towards a certain goal here
Gotcha.
as
Okay.
individuals and or as a gym,
Gotcha. Okay.
other than
And
let me get my fitness in for an hour a day, right?
how long were you there?
Let's think. So Nadia was born in 2016. So probably 2017 through 2000, almost 2 years.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And then you said you had another pause in fitness happen due to some health concerns.
So our second child was born and she was the hand grenade. She's the stubborn one. But before getting stubborn, she had to have surgery like on her second day of life. And it was just the first 9 months were just chaos um, because of some medical reasons and feedings. And we were feeding her, she had to eat every 3 hours. And it took her the full hour to eat.
Oh, wow.
So my wife and I were, rotating 2 hour sleep sessions, and that lasted for 8 or 9 months
Oh my
till
goodness.
she ended up having heart surgery at like 8 or 9 months old, and was a brand new kid post heart surgery.
I,
And it
you
was
know,
uh, it was a nightmare. Sleep is
uh,
important.
yeah, I was going to say, and I certainly, the point of this interview is not to like, drudge up some like painful, traumatic memories or whatnot, but like I hear some stories like that, and I've got 3 kids and knock on wood, have been very fortunate not to have gone through something like that. And maybe it's just one of those things that if that's the hand that you're dealt, you have no other choice than to play the cards that you're dealt. But like I hear about some of those stories, I'm like, I don't know how parents just don't have a complete mental nervous breakdown, like a surgery on the second day of life. Like I think I'd personally have a heart attack, and
Yeah,
then your little one having heart surgery, like, man, I can't even imagine. Of course you didn't get in a workout.
yeah,
What? Of course you didn't. How in the world could you?
it was a whirlwind, and the heart surgery, the day two of life surgery, of course, was like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And it worked out well. There's a spectrum with everything, right? Like
Sure.
she could come out of the surgery and need these things, or this could be a one and done surgery and everything looks good. We won't know till we get there. And it couldn't have been better. We were on the very good side of the results of surgery and where we could have been. And she is 5 and she's healthy, and you could look at her and never know that anything was ever wrong. But that first 9 months whirlwind of the feedings and being concerned about her growth and the heart surgery, believe it or not, was a relief. When we told
Okay.
our pediatrician, hey, they want to do surgery, he was like, yes,
Oh, good.
because
Okay.
he had suspicions that things were wrong, but they delay heart surgery until it's impacting growth. She was growing just enough to keep
Mm,
her out of surgery. And finally, they noticed her heart's enlarged. We've got to intervene. And like I said, she's new baby coming out of heart surgery. Was
wow.
able to
Just like
eat,
that.
breathe. Oh yeah. They said that, I guess so you have some holes in your heart without going too far down a rabbit hole. You have some holes in your heart and utero because you don't use your lungs, and they close when you're born so that blood starts flowing through your lungs to get oxygenated. And her holes did not close the way they were supposed to.
Mm,
So they went in and put in some devices to help close those. And the heart surgeon said that the pressure in her heart just was night and day. They said her eating was like trying to run while drinking a milkshake.
okay.
But
Okay.
once she had heart surgery, everything immediately she could eat regularly. She's gaining weight. We didn't have to feed her as often because she's gaining. And it was like, I can sleep.
You know, I hear stories like that, and medical stuff fascinates me just in general, whether it's documentaries or whatever. But I see those folks, and I've watched a couple documentaries specifically on not just surgeons, because you've got brain surgeons, kidney surgeons, that are phenomenal. You see like pediatric surgeons, surgeons that operate on little kids, and they are so profoundly smart, talented, operating in like a talk about a high stress environment that it makes me feel like I have no useful skills in the world. Like those people
Yes.
are incredible,
Yeah.
and you make more money playing in the NFL. Like if you're a pediatric surgeon, I mean, that's like, as far as I'm concerned, I would rather sit down and talk with one of those people for 2 or 3 hours than some actor or professional athlete, because I mean,
For
what they
sure.
do is mind-boggling to me. So
Hey,
anyway,
I don't have the accuracy to do double unders, and this guy performed surgery through through a vein in my daughter's leg on her heart that was the size of a strawberry.
I mean, that's mine. I mean, that's on another level of like, I don't know what that individual is paid, but it's probably not
It's not
enough.
enough.
It's and I mean, and to give you like your daughter back, to give
Yeah.
like anyway, those people are my hat's off to those people.
I could have hugged the guy for 20 minutes,
Yep,
you
yep.
know,
And then he'll do it again next week.
move on and help some other child. Yeah, it's incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely incredible. Okay, so that warms my heart to hear that. That's fantastic. And so a little bit of normalcy came back to
Yes.
life, or a lot of normalcy,
Yeah.
we should
Yeah.
say. And then it was time to start getting in shape again.
Yeah. So at that point, with all the stuff going on with her, we fell off of the second gym, right? Like, there's no way I'm getting a workout.
Understandable,
Takes a
Levi.
back seat.
Understandable.
I am, after the kids and all that mental stress, I have found that CrossFit is my relief. And
Mm,
my wife, so my wife is kind of second child. She's had a rough pregnancy, a couple injuries. She's moved away. She doesn't CrossFit anymore.
hmm
I need CrossFit mentally, the stresses of kids and life, and she recognizes that. So I'm like, okay, I need to be doing something, and I clearly don't have the time to get to the gym and work out like I'm supposed to with the kids and other responsibilities. We have this well outfitted garage gym. Let's get disciplined. This is silly. Let's use
Right.
it. Dabbled in a few programs, would I think I did a couple main site workouts, but they were okay. Did Without giving the name of the program,
Yeah,
did
yeah.
a
No
program
need to
that's,
say name, no.
for probably more for athletes that want to compete. The
Sure.
volume was pretty high, and I struggled with it. Didn't have anybody telling me that scaling was cool. Now, obviously, if the loading was outside my wheelhouse, I knew that like you just can't lift that, right?
Right.
But the volume destroyed me. I was not getting it in an hour. I didn't have a lot of extra time. So I did that for maybe a month or two, and then I scratched that programming and I did a little off the main site, and I would go pull from the second gym and kind of do a little bit of their stuff. And then I started dabbling in some of your stuff. Saw you on Instagram, had no idea who you were, just, came across CrossFit Linchpin and started pulling some of those workouts together. And I was getting to where I was doing your workouts probably 3 days a week.
Okay.
I was like, let's go ahead and buck up here and see what else I get with, beyond the whiteboard so I can log it. And what else? Heard you talking a couple times about, hey, you get the community and the Facebook page. And so I was like, $10 a month, that's a steal and a half.
Right.
Crazy not to. So signed up and haven't looked back.
No, I wonder. I didn't go back and check your subscription date, but I wonder, do you know any clue how long you've been with Lynchpin?
I think April 2020.
Oh, wow. Okay. Geez, we could have just passed the 4 year mark. So
Yeah.
that's obviously fantastic. And like I always say during these videos, I'm sure that because a lot of stuff on social media is just hot garbage. It's a dumpster fire, and a lot of Facebook is just a dumpster fire as well. But I
Yep.
think everyone always thinks I'm probably lying or exaggerating. They're like, no, we have like an amazing, supportive, like cool online community that will be shockingly friendly. Like,
Yeah.
sure, Pat, sure it is. And it's like, no, seriously. So it's always cool when people go like, you know what? Let's see if this guy's lying. I'll see. So that's cool. That I think one of the coolest parts of your story, if you wouldn't mind talking about it for a bit, and what drew me to a lot of your Facebook posts is you're not just in there working out, but you're working out on occasion with your father, who at least when we started emailing last year, he was 65 and your father-in-law was 63. So maybe you could talk about that for a bit.
So I'm sad to report that both of them have not been around lately.
What a bunch of
Uh,
slouches.
right. So when my dad retired, and I told him several times, like, look, 3 days a week, you got to come to the garage and work
To
out
get
with me.
back in there.
Right. Didn't honestly know if he would really show or not. He never said, yeah, I'll definitely be there. Or, he was always kind of like, we'll see. And he, I kept every time he'd mentioned retirement, I'm like, yeah, 3 days a week, got to come to the garage. I got to keep you moving. I tell him I want you to outlive mom so you can get some peace and quiet.
That's incredible.
Terrible,
That's
terrible.
fantastic.
So he showed up. I mean, I think it wasn't. I don't know that he even took 2 weeks after he retired to show up, and we just started getting after it, and he does what he can, and I'm super impressed with him, to be honest with you. I don't know. He's 67 now, or turned 67 this year. I don't know too many 60-plus-year-olds jumping on 16-inch boxes
Oh,
and
without
trying to learn how to clean and.
without a doubt. And everyone, like we've talked about with your life, my life as well, like everyone goes through fits and starts, ups and downs, times of dedication, times of pauses, times where you're like, I was going to take a week off. It's been 4 months. Like that happens to a lot of people, whether you're in your 60s, your 20s, your 30s. So I sincerely hope that, you can get them fired up and get back in there again because you're right, man. I mean, if you're doing anything in your mid 60s, I don't care if you're squatting an empty barbell on your back and that's your 5x5 back squat. I don't care if you're jumping onto a 45-pound plate that's just 2 inches thick. If you're doing stuff like that, like you are elite compared to everybody else who's in their mid 60s. And you're going to maintain so much like functional capacity and independence compared to your peers that it's crazy.
Yeah. And he mentioned, I just was over there 2 days ago, and he mentioned getting back in. So they were going through building a new house. They
Mm,
bought an acre of land literally across the street from my sister and had a house built on it. So he's been dealing with all that. So it slowed him down. Um, but he mentioned the other day that, hey, when I get settled in here and things get all finished, we just moved them in. I'd like to get back over there a couple days a week. He recognizes that, and he'll tell you, like he doesn't enjoy the workouts, right? And neither do I.
right.
But he's an evangelist now. He actually talks to guys that are retired that he used to work with, and he's like,
No kidding.
it's hard to believe. He's like, but I started working out with him, and within 2 weeks, my back doesn't hurt anymore. My hands, he was a mechanic, so his hands
Mm,
have been beat. He's like, my hands don't hurt when I'm working out. He was telling me the other day over there, my hands are starting to hurt me again, but using them makes them not hurt.
right. That whole movement is medicine kind of a thing.
Yep.
Why was
And
it
then,
about the motion stays in motion and all that stuff?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
sprinting at 60-plus years old.
That's
Now
so, man,
I
that's
laugh
so
at him because I tell him he looks like a dog running on ice. He doesn't get his knees very high, so it's this pitter pat, but he's still sprinting. You
Yeah,
know,
and it's just, if you can get him back in there for anything, just the durability also, right? Because at a certain age, whether it's mid 60s or somewhere in their 70s, this is like, I'm not going to quote any numbers, so I don't have the statistical numbers in front of me, but it's like usually trips and falls that do so much damage to older people because
yeah,
they don't pick their feet up when they walk. They begin to shuffle, and something that's not very high off the ground that as a younger man or woman you would have stepped over, like your toe catches it. And
yeah,
then since you aren't doing like box jumps or burpees or any sort of like balance and agility work, when that when you start to tip, you're going down. And
yeah.
then
It's
you're going
catastrophic.
down and you put your arms out, but your arms are frail. So they're probably not going to stop the fall. And so just some of the stuff that you're doing in your garage, man, it could be so beneficial to him. I hope that I just hope that he makes his way back in there.
I believe he'll be back. And my father-in-law, so he's in your boat. He needs a hip replacement. Well, he's behind you a little.
Oh, does he? Okay.
That's one of the reasons he came over, because they told him we won't do your hip replacement until you lose some weight.
Okay.
The anesthesia risk is high enough that they don't want to do it.
Gotcha.
Um, so he came over, and he was relatively consistent for 2 or 3 months. And he got to the point where he's like, the pain in my hip, I
Hmm.
can't muster it. But happy to report, he is about 10 pounds away from his goal weight.
Good.
And if he gets there, they'll do the hip surgery and he has full intentions of returning.
Good, man. I'll get my best to him as well. You know, I don't know the specifics of his case, but I'll tell you what, that hip surgery, it was a game changer for me. I mean, it's not fun and nobody wants to do the recovery and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
but once you make it through that uncomfortable phase, man, I feel the best I have in years and years. I think he's got some sunshine in his future, whether he realizes it or not. He just needs to get through the initial storm of the surgery and the
Right.
recovery, and dropping another 10 pounds, I'm sure at his age, is not fun and takes a while. And it's but man, have him hang in there. That'll be a game changer.
I'm excited for him because I think he's going to be very pleasantly surprised by what he's capable of.
Oh yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Well, maybe any kind of closing thoughts, lessons learned. I mean, you've been doing this since 2014 or 2015, means you're about a decade in. You got a lot of CrossFit knowledge. You've dabbled around in a bunch of stuff. Any tips or tricks or things that you wish you knew 5, 6, 7 years ago that you could share with people as some closing thoughts?
Yeah, like you, I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, listen to your body,
Oh
right?
man.
And stop ego lifting. Um, for the most part, I have avoided injury. I have one CrossFit related injury, and it's a story that I'll tell you, but I'm not proud of. I broke my hand on a box.
Oh
Doing
man.
box jumps overs, I swung my hand and hit the box and broke my
Oh,
hand. So,
just a random
oh,
crazy thing.
yeah, like people are like, you ever been injured doing CrossFit? Well, yeah, but that wasn't really
Yeah, but
CrossFit
not what
stuff,
you
right?
think.
Like I didn't slam a weight on my head or anything. Yeah, I just think listening to your body and get away from cramming a heavy lift in a Metcon in. It's not beneficial.
Oh my goodness, man. Amen to
I
that.
can't I can't tell people that up. And the other thing is the scaling message. I tell people the look on people's face when I tell them that my 67-year-old dad does this and my father-in-law who needs a hip replacement is doing it with you, right? I can meet you where you're at.
Right. That I won't get on a tangent now, or else I'll be here another 20 minutes. But that heavy lift before the Metcon thing, it's like there's just not time. I mean, it should be like an emotionless chat. Like there's just not time in an hour, and everyone wonders why they're not getting strong. With the other podcasts that I do for Varied Not Random, I'm lucky to interview some. I've interviewed like a bunch of Olympians heading up to
Mhm.
Paris that some have actually one just posted today. It's an amazing woman, Mary. She's competing for the U.S. as an Olympic lifter. And then I interviewed a gentleman who's only 20 years old. That'll probably post in a few weeks. His name's Hampton Morris, and he's 20. He's going to go represent the U.S. for Olympic weightlifting also. But I always chat with these people because they're so darn strong. They're ridiculously strong.
Mhm.
And about like, hey, what does your training schedule each week look like? Like educate me on that so I can learn from that. And then one of the big things I ask them is if you're doing like on your back squat heavy days, how much rest do you take between heavy sets? And without a doubt, each time they've been like, well, like unquestionably no less than 5 minutes between each set. Like, and they're like, it could be more. I'm like, how in the world does some gym think they're going to cram in a meaningful heavy lift in which you had to warm up first, by the way, and then build up your warm-up sets to your working weight, then finally get to your working weight, rest like 5 minutes, like, and then cram in, like you're not going to do it. And then you
Ah,
wonder why you're not getting strong.
yeah. I can attest to that. So at both gyms, so I can move a heavy barbell when it comes to squatting and deadlifting. That's like the one feather in my hat. I'm like, I can pull some big weight with my legs, right? At one point, I pulled a 500-pound deadlift, right?
Oh,
Lifetime PR at 185 pounds, squatting 432.
nice.
So squeezing that, I would go in and I would do, if we had back squats and or deadlifts programmed, I'm still trying to work through my last two sets while everybody else has their barbell loaded for the Metcon. And now I
Hmm.
feel rushed and it was not did my heavyweight lifts move up? Yep. But I think it greatly impacted my metabolic conditioning because I
Sure.
was so gassed by the time we got to a Metcon that I don't think I ever got to really bring the intensity in a Metcon.
Yeah, and the other side is true where you potentially could have gotten stronger had you been allowed to give that session the time you needed.
Yep.
I called him a kid, which would probably be insulting. He's 20 years old. Hampton Morris, that young Olympic weightlifter, he competes in a 61 kilogram class. He competes like 134 pounds. In his off season, he puts on a ton of weight. He goes to like 141 in the off season, okay? But at 141 pounds of body weight, and again, he takes this rest period between sets. His best back squat at 141 pounds of body weight is 520.
Wow. I mean, you think
520.
mass moves mass? No, not
That's
necessarily. That's
I did
incredible.
I did the way I think it's a 3.8 times body weight. He's almost at a 4 times body weight back squat, and he does not rush his rest periods.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
I'm like, but everyone else does, and you think that's going to work well? Okay, I don't think you have a 3.8 times body weight back
Maybe,
squat.
maybe listen to the Olympian, right?
Dude, so
And
anyway,
I bet
hey,
I tell you what, I bet you that
can't
guy's
save them
taking a
all.
knee after his sets. A wise
Yeah.
man once told me you cannot fall off the floor. You rack that 500-pound barbell and you hit to your knees, you're like, I'm going to stay here for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, and he says it. So when he competes at 134, his best clean and jerk is just under 400 pounds. It's like 395, 394, something like that.
That's more impressive than the back squat. That's insane.
Insane.
You know, the
But
human body, like,
it's interesting
oof.
hearing these people and asking them how they train and how frequently they lift and all that, and then comparing it and contrasting it, and selfishly all that stuff like it funnels into Linchpin and like
Mhm.
do things, like because why wouldn't you want to learn from an Olympian? But yeah. Well, hey man, Levi, I appreciate it, brother, very much.
Thanks, Pat.
Of course, and I will see you in the private Facebook group, and of course, just keep harassing your father. Get him back in there.
Yeah, we'll get him back in there. About the time he's back in, then we'll have to take another break because we're going to build a house. So we'll be
Oh,
we'll be the LEO crew.
oh, dude, enjoy the
No, I
dumb.
won't enjoy. I already know.
All right, man. Well, best your dad, best your father-in-law, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.